Well, what's up, guys, and welcome to the Flipside. I'm Jason.
I'm Eric. Good to be with you, Jason.
Yeah, man. You want to hop into
Let's
this?
hop in, dude.
Man, by the way, this was an incredible message today. All the messages I feel like everyone should hear, but this one in particular, it hit home with me.
Yeah.
So I'm
Sure.
really glad. Man, real good.
Glad to be here.
Eric, this first question goes, I've volunteered for several years previously. Currently, I am a senior citizen without transportation and a limited income. How can I serve without transportation? Can't even join a small group. I have requested transportation several times, and I told something that Grace does not do. Suggestions.
So my suggestion is 100%. Hopefully we know who you are. That's something our online team would love to talk with you about. That's sort of outside of my scope. In fact, I was just my wife's aunt and uncle were in from Utah this weekend, so we had dinner with them and her parents, and I was commenting with them that the longer I've been at Grace, the less I know about. Like 10 years ago, I knew lots of stuff. I don't personally have the answer to that question. There is an answer. We would love to help. Our online team can definitely help you with that for sure. As long as they know who you are. So hopefully online we'll reach out and they'll connect personally. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Excellent.
It's great.
Yeah, definitely reach out. We'd love to partner with you.
It's great.
Help out with that. I love this next question. Any question that starts with, I don't want to offend.
You would love. Those are your favorite questions. Those are your favorite questions.
Here we go.
Yes. Let's go.
All
Buckle up.
I don't want to offend. This person says, I work professionally with several nonprofits and other churches. I found it difficult to believe we have these large churches, yet can't house the homeless or do more for them. I guess the question would be, why couldn't Grace open its doors to help the homeless in our community with all of the space here?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I don't have a specific answer, but I can give you my best guess on that. I would think that if you were going to house the homeless, you would need. I wouldn't be surprised if you needed something like a kitchen or an ability to do food, which we don't have. We can do coffee, but we can't do more than that. We don't have showers. We don't have tons of bathrooms. And our space is used most days of the week. It doesn't sit open. We're just not set up to be a homeless shelter. There are churches that I can make, the gyms and locker rooms and all of that might be better set up. But as big as our buildings might look, they're actually relatively small for the amount of time they are used. I'm not an expert in homeless ministry or the specific answer to that question, but I do know it's more complicated because it's not like just putting people, in a big concrete, put them in the lobby and what. I feel like it's a little more difficult than that. I'd talk to our buddies down at Pin Ministry. I know we are very tight with JCOC, who's doing some great work there. So I don't want to offend, just kidding. And I don't want to offend, but my guess is that it's just more complicated than simply letting people come sleep on our concrete floor in the lobby. That would be my guess. But I love your heart for it, and I'm glad that you're working with those nonprofits and other churches. Very
much so. And whomever asked this question, I don't know who you are, but if you haven't, we would love to partner with you. If you have any ideas, or we do outreaches.
I would say reach out to us. To our local outreach department would love to talk with you. Because we do a lot in the community, and we do a lot. So I can tell you what we do. I said do. What we do is work with and support the ministries that are supporting the homeless through Serve the City, through financially contributing by sending volunteers. So we are supporting homeless ministry as a church in pretty significant ways, just not in this exact way that you are describing. But I love your heart, and it's a great question.
Yeah, and by the way, no offense taken. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no offense taken. All questions are good questions. This is the flip side. You can ask anything.
Doesn't mean that we'll answer.
And probably we'd be more likely to answer when we shouldn't. Especially if it's you and me.
This is true.
Right? So you want to put something that, if you're still with us, you got a juicy one, throw it in there. We'll check back before we finish. All right.
We are very unfiltered. All right.
Here we go.
Eric, will the church, the body of Christ, really accept the concept of racial unity? If not, what hope is it for the world?
Yeah, I mean, if the question is, will the church? I would say, yeah, definitely. Yeah. I would say definitely. I think we see that all over the place. I mean, what has happened in our country over the last couple hundred years is incredible. How the church has changed, has moved, has embraced these ideas. I think it's incredibly hopeful. I think, to me, it's hopeful to look in Galatians and see that Peter had to be rebuked by Paul. I know I know we all want perfection and we all want to be done with sin, but the reality is we're not gonna be.
Yeah.
I mean, here's Peter, like the disciple of Jesus, separating from the Gentiles. So if anything, I would go the other way and say there's incredible hope because the gospel is continually reforming and healing and bringing people along. And let everybody be on their journey, and everybody's journey is not going to be the same. And here's the other thing I would say, and maybe this will be just slightly bridge too far. Not everybody's like commitment or pursuit of racial unity is going to look the same.
Yeah.
I read an article in my app. It was in my Apple News feed. I think it was Wall Street Journal. I'm not positive, but I think it was an op-ed, and it was by a nurse who had been a nurse for a long time, who resigned her job because she didn't want to do the diversity, equity, inclusion training on implicit bias because she felt like the training was condemning her for racism. Now, it is possible for someone to look at that and see that's and I have no idea if it wasn't a Christian perspective, whatever, but we could look at that and you could say, oh man, like, if she's a Christian, why wouldn't she do that? Well, we don't know why she wouldn't do it. Maybe she didn't like being called a racist. Like, I don't know about you, but I don't do well when people begin the conversation by insulting me. I don't mind.
Not great.
I don't want to offend, and then a very kind, thoughtful question. That was a great question earlier. It's like, hey, I don't want to offend, but I'm wondering about this. Cool. Like, ask anything with politeness and respect. But, there is a worldview, and this is why we stick with the Bible. There is a worldview that says, because of what has happened in the history of our country, white people are bad and can't be trusted. That's not biblical. That's not biblical either. And so if you feel like someone's yelling at you, white people can't be trusted, and you're white, you might be like, whoa, what's going on? It's complicated.
It's very complicated.
So that's why I was serious with these three things that might have seemed trite, but man, we got to commit. Jesus is for, the church is for, the gospel is about racial unity. Keep that in get that in our hearts.
That's good.
And then lament. Will the church really accept if not, what hope is there for the world? That's why we lament, because the world is broken, because there is going to be more injustice in our country. If nobody should be surprised if we wake up tomorrow and there was a racially motivated shooting of some kind.
Yeah.
It shouldn't surprise us, but we should lament it. It should break our hearts. Let's weep with those who weep. And then let's listen to what the Spirit is doing and do what we can do. I think there is hope because Jesus' resurrection is strong enough. And it is, like, I do look out and see I see progress. I mean, frankly, our church, the fact that 7 years ago we weren't talking about this, and now we have been for the last 7 years, like, that's progress. It's not perfect. A little late to the party, but better late than never. So, man, let's celebrate what is. But I love the question, and I appreciate y'all coming around with us.
Could I chime in on this?
Flip. Do you have something to say, Jason?
I do. I do want to say.
You chime in, and I'll check to see if there's any more questions.
Perfect. Is there hope for the world? Absolutely. Man, I actually am crazy enough to think that the church, the local church, is one of the last great hopes of the world. And by that, I mean this. The hope is in the gospel of Jesus Christ and the unifying centrality of that. That's where the hope lies. Jesus calls us all to be loving and compassionate to all, despite differences. Not despite difference, because we're different, whatever. And so I will say this. The phenomenon that's sort of happened, like, within America in like the last, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to go back to Jim Crow laws, but I do want to say that, like, there's been a push recent, and like I want to say maybe the last 15 years or so of the evangelical church being more inclusive and being more diverse, right? The idea of being an all-white church and an all-black church, sure, that's fine, whatever. But the idea of churches saying, hey, listen, we want to be inviting and welcoming, and we want to tailor our service experiences, our ministries, so that it can include brown people, white people, yellow people, whatever. That's more of like a newer phenomenon. And so what has happened as well as that within the last 15 years, 20 years is like the politicizing of religion, right? And so I will caution that, like, yeah, the hope is in the church. Racial reconciliation is not a political thing at all. It gets politicized, and that's when it gets ugly, and that's where it's like you have to choose sides on how you love people, how you interact with people, and that was never the case. Christ never intended for that. And so I want to encourage everyone. There's a book written by a pastor in Atlanta. His name's Andy Stanley. It's called Not In It to Win It.
Oh, that's a good book.
And I've gone through that book twice, audio, because that is a legitimate way to read.
It's a legitimate way.
That's how I consume.
It's great.
But that is a great book, and it talks about how politics have sort of interrupted or bled into things that it shouldn't have bled into, and how the effects of that can be not so great. And along with that is this racial reconciliation. And so, anyways, now rambling. I do want to say this. Then, love people. Colorblind is like not the option. It's not the thing. I'm glad, man. That was vulnerable of you to say that was something that you used to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
Sure. I think it's a part of a lot of white people's journey to.
But
think.
you meant no ill intent in that. It's just.
I didn't mean ill intent, but I had ill intent.
There you go.
I had ill intent. What I said it to a specific friend of mine, to Saulo Ortiz, and I said to Saulo, and I've used this in a sermon before. I said, "Hey, Saulo, when I see you, I don't see color." And what I meant was, I didn't like. It took me a while to process this, but what I meant, I'm not anybody else. What I meant was, Saulo, when I see you, I don't attribute to you the negative characteristics I attribute to many black people. That's what I like. If you're gonna go like brass tacks, like most honest, what did I mean? That's what I meant. I didn't know that's what I meant at the time, and nobody told me that. Like, I figured this out on my own. But that's what I meant. That's ugly. That's ugly. But the gospel allows me to face my ugly so that I can be changed.
That's good.
And I'm sure there are things now that I'm doing that are insulting to somebody. I know that I have offended well-meaning white people by talking in ways that I didn't realize were offending them unnecessarily, not with the gospel. I probably did today, right? I mean, just we're all learning and growing, and we got to be humble and just walk together. And if Peter and Paul like had issues, like I just feel okay about not getting it right. Like just move on, like confess, repent, and move on, right? So
that's good.
Yeah, we're done. They got no more questions for us.
Well, listen, thank you so much for joining in with us on the flip side. We want to encourage a couple of things real quick. Tonight is the night of worship plus legend concert.
6 p.m. Don't miss it. Boom.
Boom.
Next week is baptism, so sign up to be baptized if you're not.
By the way, if you're watching right now,
if you're still watching, God bless.
That means that you probably have a computer or a phone. So we've created a link in Facebook or whatever. Share that link with your friends about the concert, or in general, like tell people about baptisms. Like if you know someone that's like hasn't taken that next step of faith, encourage them to sign up for baptisms. It's great.
Love it.
We will see you right back here after all the services. Until then, we will catch you on the flip side.